What's up, Davis? Hi, I'm Clay and I represent an organization called Fight the New Drug. We were asked to make this video for you guys because basically our organization focuses on educating young people on the harmful effects of pornography. And we're passionate about it. We love it. And it all started about 4 years ago when, a few buddies of mine, we were all sitting in a room and we were kind of talking about how pornography had harmfully affected not only our friends but even some family members, and how it was just destroying lives all around us. And we thought, man, we gotta do something. And so we did, and here we are. But before I go into that, before we go into, the effects of pornography, I want to talk to you about this, our brain. It's something that we all have, performing at different capacities, I'm sure, but still, we all have one, and it was given to us for free just for being born, and it's the powerhouse of our bodies. Without it, of course, we just drop dead, because you can't function without it. So it's the most valuable thing that each of us possess. So it's pretty important that we protect it, right? And luckily we have these things called skulls to help us out. Sometimes we challenge those skulls and do things that kind of hurt our brains, like this. And this. This one's the worst. Oh! I don't even know what he's thinking. And sometimes we just make stupid decisions with those brains, and this guy, luckily this guy's wearing a helmet, so. But what are some other things that might hurt our brains? Obviously we've got alcohol, we've got drugs, and we've got, big metal balls with spikes on the end of them. But I want to talk about a new drug. The thing is, pornography is not all that new. It's been around since the beginning. So why are we calling it a new drug? Well, that's because scientists are just now, over the last decade, beginning to understand what pornography really does, how it affects our brains, and psychologists are understanding how it affects our behaviors, and sociologists, our society. And so we're just beginning to understand that it can be just as addictive as drugs, as hard drugs. And we'll explain how, because I know that there's some skeptical eyes out there kind of thinking, wait a second, drugs? Really? I don't sniff it, I don't inhale it, I don't inject it. How is pornography like a drug? But first, you're probably wondering, dude, we're teenagers, why are you talking to us? Why are you talking to us about pornography? It's an uncomfortable topic, right? In fact, I bet you anything that as you guys came into this, as you kind of found out what this was going to be all about, you thought to yourself, oh boy, here we go. Shoot, how do I get out of this? I mean, not a lot of people like to talk about it, but it's becoming more and more of an issue, and we got to deal with it. And here's why we're talking to you guys. The largest group of internet porn users is youth, ages 12 to 17. You guys. 90% of the people watching this video right now fit into that group. Do you know what the average age of exposure is for pornography? 11 years old. 11! And 9 out of 10 youth ages 8 to 16 have seen it. So we know what it is. We know what it is. We're not here to define it. Get this. Every second, now, 30,000 people are viewing online pornography. And what was the largest group of internet porn users? 12 to 17. So you see how a lot of those are there. And girls, watching this right now, listen up. A lot of you tune out for topics like this. You can think, okay, it's a guy's issue. It's not my issue. Recent statistics show that 30% of addicts are women. That number has skyrocketed over the last decade, and it's growing. So current research is showing that pornography is a drug, and that it can lead to addiction. But some of you are looking out there going like, well, how? It doesn't make any sense. How? Again, I don't sniff it, I don't smoke it. Well, how? Let me show you. Pornography goes in through the eyes, in through the iris, and triggers a release of chemicals in your brain. Chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, epinephrine, oxytocin. Now this isn't a science class, but you may have heard of some of those. Now these are natural chemicals that your body produces. These chemicals are needed. When you do drugs, hard drugs, or look at pornographic material, your brain is overloaded with these chemicals. After you keep looking at porn, your brain gets used to those high amounts and builds up a tolerance. Those same images that once gave you a rush don't have the same effect anymore. In order to get that same rush, it not only takes more of it, but it also takes a more hardcore version of it. Your brain becomes dependent on that rush of chemicals and literally rewires itself to think that that's normal, and so you cannot function without it. That is addiction. The same process happens with cocaine and heroin. They can't stop. I can't tell you how many people have come up to us and told us their story about their addiction to pornography and how it led them to do things that they never thought they would do when they were your age. Things that sometimes even led them to prison. I have a relative who served a prison sentence because of something that he had done that stemmed from a pornography addiction that started when he was 8 years old. It destroyed his life. He lost his family, his kids, he lost everything, his job, and he's now just barely getting his life back on track. He told me, Clay, had I known what it was doing, had I known what it had the capacity of doing in my life, I'd have never touched this stuff. He and others share the same opinion. Why risk it? Why chance it? I know what you're thinking right now, well, that's them, that's not me. They were out of control, I'm in control. Well, that's true, that's not you, that is them, but it could be you. Why risk it? Why chance it? Research is showing that even after the very first exposure to pornography, your brain chemistry starts to change. It starts to rewire itself. It's like smoking, which has been proven to be addictive. Every single puff you take increases your chances at lung cancer or a shortened lifespan. Why risk it? Why chance it? I'll tell you, there's millions of addicts all over the world right now that would say it's not worth it. Don't risk it. You know what part of the brain addiction hurts? They call it the frontal lobes. The frontal lobes are located, just like the name suggests, in the front area of your brain, okay? This area of your brain is the decision-making area of your brain, okay? It's responsible for weighing out pros and cons, logically thinking through situations and scenarios. It's no wonder that addicts have a hard time stopping their behaviors, even when they want to. That area of the brain that is responsible to help them through that is damaged. So if pornography affects you physically, how would that then affect you behaviorally or psychologically? Well, let's look at the obvious. If you are addicted, you're going to have addictive behaviors, right? All of your activities are going to start to revolve around you getting your next fix, and pretty soon it's going to be nearly impossible to quit. All of this happens while you think you're still in control. You see, with the brain, addiction is addiction, whether it's cocaine, heroin, nicotine, or pornography. Once you're addicted, it's too late. And the thing is, you may even realize what you're doing is harmful, but once you're in that trap of addiction, what you should do and what you want to do is out of your control. All you can think about is satisfying that craving, and if you don't, you'll go through withdrawal symptoms, just like you would if you were trying to quit a hard drug or a chemical drug. It's a memory-based drug, so you can't get rid of those images. They're seared into your mind. And pornography is everywhere. You can't just walk away from it. It comes and finds you. Not only that, but it can actually cause feelings of worthlessness, hopelessness, and even depression. It can cause a decrease in libido, which is basically your sexual desire or your sex drive, and make you prefer pornography to an actual partner or an actual relationship. Let me repeat that. Consistent exposure to pornography can actually decrease your sex drive and make you prefer porn to a real relationship. What the heck? That is messed up, but study after study have indicated that that is true. This is something that is affecting so many people, and that's just us. What does that then do to our society? Think about it. The more and more people become addicts, those behaviors are going to start to impact those around them. Everything around them and everyone around them. According to recent statistics, over 50% of all divorces include at least one member having an obsession with online pornography. That's awful. Pornography ruins marriages, families, and relationships. Now, some people think that pornography teaches you about sex. Well, this one actually makes a little bit of sense when you don't think about it too much, but basically that's like trying to study for a history exam on the Persian War by watching a movie about a bunch of Spartans. Are you going to learn something? Probably, but how much of that information is going to be historically accurate or useful on your test? Not much. Most of what pornography portrays about sex isn't healthy or realistic. It shows a lot of fetishes and behaviors that are socially unacceptable and in a lot of cases illegal. So it's not a good place for you to go for education on this subject. What do you think this is doing to our economy? Do you know that 70% of online pornography is viewed during office hours, during work hours? Now let's just take aside the fact that they should be working and not doing that, so the countless hours that's spent during that, yeah, that's an issue. But after having learned about how it affects our brains, do you think that they're more productive? There's also a link between pornography and sexual crime. Now, we're not saying that everybody who's addicted to pornography will commit sexual crime, but the likelihood sure goes up. Studies show that the likelihood goes up. So this is a lose, lose, lose. Physically, a lose. Behaviorally, a lose. And socially, a lose. Everybody that gets involved with it is a victim. Nobody benefits from this. 1993 changed the game. All right? Your generation, my generation, we're dealing with something that our parents never had to. Sure, it existed back then. Of course it did. But not like it does today. All right? As soon as the internet came around, the industry exploded in our faces, and we're just now picking up the pieces. This is something that we got to deal with. This is something that we got to start to understand. And that's why we started this movement. That's why we started this campaign, Fight the New Drug. We just want people to know what it's doing, what it has the capacity to do. We're not trying to take away rights. We're not trying to push a religious message. We're just trying to help educate people. That's it. That's it. If you're on board with that message, if you're on board with that mission, we need you. Go online, fightthenewdrug.org, and become an official fighter. You know, before we started this movement, we thought to ourselves, due to the fact that this is somewhat of a taboo topic, is anybody going to want to jump on board with this and associate themselves with this? And after only 1 week of having launched our site, we had over 10,000 people from all across the United States and beyond that had gone onto our website and become fighters. This is a message that needs to be heard, guys. It needs to be understood, and it needs to be spread. So before you go, you got to remember 3 things. If you forget everything that we've talked about so far, remember these 3. 1, pornography is a drug and it can lead to addiction. 2, it's okay to talk about it. In fact, we need to. And 3, there's ways to get involved and help others.